Hi everyone, this is Suzanne Wagner and welcome to the Intuitive Patterns for the month of June 2019. In the Osho Zen Tarot, I got Trust, the Rebel, and Compromise. So obviously that's pretty straightforward. You need to trust the rebel inside of yourself, and yes, you will need to make some compromises as you go through this month. The medicine card was Porcupine, and Porcupine is about innocence. So in this month where there's an intensity that's building up as we go towards the eclipses that are in July, I want you to really look at the innocence within yourself and also remember to look at the innocence within others. Because everyone is a victim of this chaotic energy that's happening at the moment. And we need to drop our defenses a little bit, and we need to recognize that we have defenses like the porcupine has, but we really need to show and express our innocence more than we need to be prickly with other people. In the Mayan Oracle, we have the Universal Movement card, Greater Cycles, and Lamat. Lamat kind of tells us that there are bigger issues and bigger divine issues in control of these greater cycles. And so there's a lot of universal movement happening that's global, that is not personal. And I know that this astrology and this energy for the many years, the last 4 years, has felt very personal to a lot of people. And I'm not saying that it hasn't impacted people on a deeply personal level, but I want to step back from everybody constantly defending themselves, and I want everybody to kind of look at a bigger picture that's trying to emerge from this kind of situations that we're in. In the ancient Egyptian tarot, we have the Seven of Discs, the Hermit, and Justice. In order to find true balance and true justice, you have to find that clarity within yourself. You have to know your path. You have to know your direction, your perspective, and your way. The Seven of Discs says that, sometimes you have to put a lot of energy out before you get anything back. And we're kind of in one of those cycles. The Aleister Crowley Tarot, we get the Sun card, the Queen of Wands, the Hierophant, and Completion. The Sun is pretty self-explanatory. We're moving towards, in the month of June, we go into summer solstice, and we will be fully in the warmth of the sun. The Queen of Wands is also a heat card, so it's a very powerful, it's the most powerful feminine card in the tarot. So it says that there's a surge of feminine power that's going to be happening, which is really going to be happening from the eclipse that's happening on July 16th, which is a lunar eclipse. And the way that one is aspected, something's going to happen that's going to make the women lose their mind. And they'll be on the streets. And so the Queen of Wands and every woman is going to suddenly start to be standing up here in the month of June. The Hierophant card says you need to trust your own internal spiritual guidance. You need to listen to that spiritual guidance, not your mind, in order to find the completion. The Healing Earth Tarot, we've got the Ace of Rainbows, we've got the Grandfather of Feathers, we've got the Grandmother of Crystals. Within you, you have the connections that you seek. The Grandmother of Crystals has her hair kind of going out, and she's kind of connected to everyone and everything. We are all connected to everyone and everything. We are all connected to the earth. And so when the earth is suffering, which it is, when the animals and plants are suffering, which it is, everyone ends up suffering to some extent. The Grandfather of Feathers says we need to really start paying attention to the messages that are coming from Spirit. And we need to find that arc within our heart that goes out to others. And we have to learn to love in a bigger way, a deeper way, a more conscious way. In the Words of Truth, I got a lot of cards this time. I got the Guidance card, the Future card, the Sacrifice card, the Mastery card, Fantasy Bond, Anger, Support, and Abandonment. So, like I started to say, we usually begin to feel the energy of the eclipses about 6 weeks before and 6 weeks after the last eclipse. The first eclipse is happening on July 2nd. The last eclipse in the summer is going to be happening on July 16th. we are in that 6-week period, and those eclipses are attempting to unravel our reality. And you will be feeling those shifts, and you will know something is changing within the heart and soul of humanity. So, what I've been hearing from a lot of people is just how incredibly tired they are, how incredibly exhausted they are. And there's a point where you have to reprioritize and you have to restructure things. And I think that's what these eclipses are attempting to do. When I pulled the Words of Truth deck this month, I felt like I needed to do it in a sequence of two. The first one showing the action, and the second one explaining the pattern in more depth. Therefore, the sequence is as follows. There is guidance for the future this month. There is sacrifice required to find mastery. There's going to be a disillusionment of a fantasy bond that will result in anger. There are those that will feel the support they believed was there has been abandoned. Now, I see this as a good thing, but those hanging on to a reality that is not authentic will be strained and upset by the truth as it comes crashing down. And unfortunately, the whole rest of this year, as we get ready for this Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn on January 12th, 2020, that's just going to keep crashing. I mean, it's just all these things are going to keep crashing down. So the Hermit card is asking you to go deep. Only then will the Hermit actually give you the great insight into the potential challenges that are going to arise in this month of June. In case you didn't notice, the pot is getting stirred. Movement is happening, and it is all a part of some greater divine plan. We are simply players in this great game. You have a part to play this month, and you feel that the dice are in your hand, and it is time to take a risk and roll those dice so that you can enter into a greater game of consciousness and awakened awareness. There is a lot of support from the ancestors this month as you feel into this vast, mysterious unknown that is gathering momentum. You might reflect and recognize on how much you've changed. Something's very different. And from that place of realization, there is a type of calm that cuts through the distortions and chaos. You may not know where you are going, but you know that you are going, and somehow that is enough. It seems time to trust the rebel within us, which I think is a really handy thing. Trust those in the external world that are pushing against those edges that have previously been taboo and untouchable. There are voices that are raising up to call us out of selfish complacency and into affirmative action. To grow, we have to sacrifice things from our most cherished past and beliefs. Mastery is never given. It is always earned. To be a true guide in this emerging future, you have to clarify what is essentially what's essential for the greater good. There are many in this country that right now feel abandoned by the establishment and those in power. I mean, the elderly are suffering, the expensive health care is making millions suffer with debt, and that is an atrocity that none of us should accept. Those that sit in the edges of society and do not fit into the social norm feel abandoned and persecuted. Children are experiencing PTSD because of the lack of safety and laws that would allow children to grow in a natural, healthy environment. You know, I just can't help but think of the consequences of that. When you raise children in an unsafe society, you get more aggressive adults. And, protecting the children to give them a chance to grow is a really, really big piece. So this type of thing should never be allowed. I believe we are much, much better than this. It is clear that there are some in power that want to have power by trampling on those they have deemed less than worthy. And that was never what our country was about. We were a country of hope and infinite possibilities. We used to be the country to show the ways of power and inclusiveness, not exclusivity. We were to be the North Star that would direct fellow travelers to safety and possibility. I believe in that country. In this country, I know that the majority of Americans also believe that. We believe in it because we were raised in it and live it. We know it to be true, and we know that this belief was the glue that held such diversity together in unified oneness. And that is what made this country the world power that it was, which it's not anymore. I know that Americans want to be that again, and I believe that we can be that again. There are those that want to strip the very identity of freedom from the minds of Americans and bring us backwards into a manifestation of a new form of slavery on the unsuspecting. But what I know about Americans is that we are a country of rebels first. It was that quest for freedom that made our ancestors take that leap into the unknown and to seek out the potential that was out there. This month, the blood of our ancestors is calling out to each person and reminding us that the sacrifices that they made were not in vain, and the sacrifices required now will also not be in vain. The best types of compromise come from holding a position of power, not weakness. Rebels do not feel weak. They feel strong and determined, and the choices that they are making are something for something greater than themselves. That rebel beats in your heart and remembers. Your soul remembers. A great world and a great country come from everyone choosing to work together as one in harmony to find solutions that work for all. That is who we are, and the ire you feel is valid and there for a reason. The weather is getting hot and bothered intentionally to make us uncomfortable enough to rebel against that which is rotten. It will be a month that illuminates much, opens doors that were closed, forces those that refuse to hear to listen, and make it clear that the people are taking back the power. Thanks. Bye.